Take it away, James. Yeah. Take it away, James.
All right, can you hear me? All right. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Dendra, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to the people that are gathered. A little preface. Dendra, could you bring up the PowerPoint? What the photo she's showing now is fires from space that we had in Colorado. I don't have access to the PowerPoint. There you go. Thank you. A little bit about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I did a JD MBA at Texas, University of Texas, and then just became an entrepreneur. Loved law, hated lawyers, so I figured I'd do the business side. So the last company I had was a electric vehicle company. We built electric buses, and we were in 10 countries worldwide, and sold that company to an investment banking group, bought a bunch of property in the mountains here in Colorado, and all my trees died from the beetle. Being an entrepreneur, decided I'd try to invent a way to take care of the dead trees in a way that was lock up the carbon, plus get beneficial use and make a profit. And that's what this company is, Biochar Now. Started this company over 5 years ago. We spent quite a bit of money to this point to get to our point where we're at now. And this, even though biochar has many, many uses, this presentation will focus on water treatment issues, or water quality issues, and what we can do for water. Once again, to reiterate, the reason this company even gave birth was the bark beetle. We had bought a piece of property in the mountains where we pretty much had a valley to ourselves. It was an infill piece bordered by national park land and national forest land. And then when the beetle came through, it pretty much wiped out our park. Now, this isn't isolated to Colorado. Last stat I had, there was over 40 million acres devastated with the beetle, and it's growing every year. So it's not just a Colorado issue. And then this is a photo of just what the beetle is, a little small thing. As the video said earlier, if the trees were healthy, this isn't an issue. But through many years of not thinning trees, putting out fires, it just crowded the forest. And then when we had a drought out here in the West through climate change, it just basically invited the beetle in. And it even got as bad as they were getting 2 hatches a year, which had never been happening in recorded history because it just wouldn't get cold. These are photos of the trees where the beetle gets in underneath the bark, and what it does is basically it eats the underside of the bark. It eats out the veins of the tree. Excuse me, sorry. Like in here. So basically, this is right underneath the bark. It kind of destroys the ability of the tree to feed itself. It just eats everything out from underneath the bark, which kills the tree. Now, more importantly, after the tree's been dead a few years, it's useless for timber as well, for lumber. So it's really devastates the forest, takes out all the commercial value, and then what do you do at that stage? And this is just going through the biology of the beetle. If you see here, you get a blue stain. So if they can harvest a tree in the first year or 2, they can get some decorative wood out of it. After that, the wood just basically becomes weak and it can't be used for structural. So it makes the saw logs go away. And it becomes really a waste. Now, the option is to let it lay in the woods, all the carbon, all it rot away and go back in the air, or you have massive forest fires, which is not anything you want because they'll sterilize the soil when they burn so hot. So this is a slide pretty much saying that the conditions were ripe out here for the mountain pine beetle. And this is not local to us, as I said. I mean, even if you look at the stats on the southeast U.S., they have millions of acres of beetle there. It goes all the way up to New Jersey, up the eastern seaboard. It's, Vancouver, well, basically British Columbia, has lost a vast majority of its pine. California is being wiped out now. Wyoming, a little tongue-in-cheek, they put out a bulletin last year saying they had 0 pine beetle infestation left. But the footnote was 100% of the lodgepole pine had been wiped out. So it wasn't that they ran out of beetles, the beetles ran out of things to feed on. And in Colorado, what's interesting, once you get the weak forest, then everything else moves in. We have things attacking aspen, we have things attacking spruce, we've got the emerald ash borer now in Colorado, and a lot of different insects. And more importantly, this affects humans. I mean, basically, you go hiking in the woods now, we're getting a lot of injuries from trees just falling. You know, and you see stands like this now. And if you can't come up with a commercial use for the trees, they'll never get taken out, at least to the point, I mean, you don't want to take everything out, you want to leave something for wildlife and for other reasons, but you have to come up with a commercial use for the trees, and that's what biochar brings. What is biochar? It's a specially created charcoal made from biomass. You can use any type of biomass, although we choose to use wood, because denser, you got the mountain pine beetle problem, but we've even just been approved to utilize urban wood waste for landfill diversion. But we like to use the wood. It's denser, weight in equals weight out. You can use grasses, you can use a lot of different things if you like, but it just doesn't pencil out that way. You know, the wood allows us to make product. It's created an oxygen-deprived environment. Some of you people may have heard of activated carbon, and I'm sure you do, you're water people. We're not activated carbon, but we have a lot of similar properties, and I'll explain that further. We have 0 production waste streams in our production. We bring in the wood. The only thing we use no water in our process. We make no oils. The only thing that leaves that basically is created in our process are gases, which pass the EPA standard. We have we're limited with the EPA permit on what we can do with gases. More importantly, we save 50% of a log's carbon from going into the atmosphere. As I said, the way the forest is now, you've got where the tree falls down, it rots, okay? If it just rots away, the carbon goes in the air. But if the termites move in, then you're creating methane. So it even gets a multiplier effect of the dead trees, for carbon atmosphere loading. What we do, we basically we blow everything out of the tree except for the carbon matrix. And, our product has been measured by the federal labs. We have a half-life of 17,000 years when placed in the soil. One of the big markets we have is agriculture, lawn care, things like that. We supply several national tree care and lawn care companies with biochar for their customers. But we get carbon credits for everything we produce. So, we're able to break the carbon cycle, and every pound of product we produce, we get a pound of carbon credits. And it's a rare carbon negative product. What we have as a company, and I know, nobody's pitching this company, I'm just trying to have you understand, our competitors have spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to come up with a technology to make what we make. And so far they've failed. Luckily, we spent less than $10 million, but still, that's real money at the end of the day. But we have a proven product, a technology, and scalable manufacturing. And toward the end, I'll show you what our machine looks like. It's a kiln-based program, but instead of building a bigger kiln, we just number up and have more of them. We are the market-leading company as far as accounts. The competitors, if you Google biochar, you'll find a lot of references. And there's over 5,000 university papers written on it. Biochar is not a new concept, but nobody can figure out how to make it. The biochar concept is over 4,000 years old. The Amazonian Indians would make it years and years ago. And that's how they turned the clay soil along the Amazon into a nutrient-rich environment to allow them to grow crops. When the Spanish went up the Amazon back over 4,000 years ago, they carried a bunch of diseases, wiped out most of the natives, the technology was lost, and then about 20 25 years ago, scientists rediscovered the biochar by digging in the Amazon, trying to figure out, what was causing the robust growth in a clay soil. And, they carbon dated this product back over 4,000 years. But what you'll have, if you Google it, you'll find small backyard producers making it in a barrel. We do industrial scale. You've got biomass power plants that have inefficient boilers that were built in the 70s. They don't burn up all the carbon. They get a black ash out, and they claim that's biochar. That's not biochar. They can call it whatever they want. It's called boiler ash. This industry is pretty much wild, wild west still. There's some standards that have been put in place. In fact, we just finished working with the state of California, putting in place legislation to set standards on biochar. And we're the only company that's actually EPA approved for release into the environment. So California used us to help set the standards. We were the only private company at the table as the standards were set. Fast pyrolysis is a new process that's coming along. A lot of money has been thrown at this. It's still inconsistent quality. Someday this may work, but right now it's just inconsistent quality like anything. And you'll find a bunch of web providers. You can go on Amazon and buy a 5-gallon bucket for $50 or something. It's just like, buyer beware is all I'm saying there. This is a electron microscope photo of our biochar. This is our biochar made from beetle-killed pine. Although if you had ash or any other wood, it would look very similar. You can see the long tubes. Where this comes in is because we can hold over 5 times our weight in water. So the biochar has what's called a cation exchange property. And I'll go to this slide first. This is all the pores that's basically been blown out of all the organic matter that was in there from the tree. The water, the cellulose, the lignin, all that's blown out. All that's left is a carbon matrix. It's basically a type of graphene. But more importantly, what we do, it's a trick of nature, we produce at a certain temperature that embeds in that graphene, that carbon, what's called a cation exchange property, which is basically, the easiest way to say it, it's a molecular magnet. So we attract certain molecules. And then I'll show you the molecules we attract, which really helps on water quality. But so you've got the cation exchange property. When you place this product in the soil, we hold the water for plants and things like that. We can absorb these molecules from air and water. So if you're trying to remove toxins from air flows, we can remove those toxins. If you're trying to remove toxins from water flows, we can remove out of water flows just as easily. We're also, when you're done with this, you place this in the soil and we become a home for microbes. So as an example, let's say you're picking up, one of the big things we do is stop algae blooms because we sort phosphorus and nitrates out of water. And then when you're done, you can literally place that product into a farm field, and because of the cation exchange property, it actually will assist plants growing. We have multiple increases in yields, and we're currently working with some of the largest farm company or corporate farms in the country. This gives you an idea of what we can do. Like I said, we're similar in somewhat, and later I'll show you the heavy metals we pick up. We're similar to activated carbon in that we can pick up heavy metals, but activated carbon does not have the cation exchange property and it will not pick up phosphorus. Like we absorb 99.9% of the phosphorus we come in contact with, which that stops the algae blooms. At the end of the day, nitrogen is important for an algae bloom, but nitrogen will eventually evaporate into the atmosphere. Phosphorus bioaccumulates, and until sometime this world finds a cheap, cost-effective way to remove phosphorus, you're not going to get rid of all the bioaccumulated phosphorus out of the water bodies. It just so happens that we can do it, and we can actually do it. If you reuse the char, I can actually remove the phosphorus for free if need be. Because I'll show you photos of how we do it, but we can resell the product into the ag industry as a charged fertilizer because we soaked up all the phosphorus. And these are other items. Basically, we're going to remove turbidity, remove the solid. So the physical algae we can also remove, and some of the other, the mud and things like that. We hold over 5 times our weight in water. This is very important. We just basically just completed testing in California, major golf courses. California, you know, they declared the drought over, but everybody knows the water table hasn't recovered. So anyway, long story short, we can put down a little bit of our product. It allows the golf courses and the farms to cut their watering in half and still grow the crop even better than it was before. And I count turf as a crop, because at the end of the day, you got to have a customer that'll pay for this product. And turf is one of the most expensive crops there is. We also remove heavy metals. You know, so like we'll remove 100% of the aluminum we come in contact with, or arsenic. You know, some things, activated carbon would do a lot better job than we do. And I'm not going to pretend we don't. I mean, like the barium, we only remove 66%. In fact, on this thing, the lithium, we only remove 39%. The cation exchange property will bind certain molecules, but it won't help with others. But where we're used is a lot in mine reclamation. You know, and that's where this comes in. So you can basically mix our product with the nickel, you know, to remove nickel from mine waste water. And then we also allow, we're used because we're put on like, what are we going to call these piles of this, the material that's left. And we will grow grass, allow grass to be grown, and just stabilize these things and stop the leaching. But we'll also bind up what would have leached off anyway. As I said, the big thing we're pushing on right now is nutrient pollution. And we have several customers that buy our product, have just started buying our product nationwide. We've cleaned up over 30 lakes so far, extremely cost effectively. The state of California had a major water lab in California just test our product because they want to use us in the major lakes out there, from Tahoe to Lake Elsinore, Lake Owen Lake, all these lakes have issues. And the test results came back incredible. We just signed a supply agreement with a company in California where they can start buying the material to sorb the phosphorus and other items out of the lake. One lake out there has got an arsenic problem, which we bind up the arsenic. So it's things that we can do. But here's a satellite photo showing the algae blooms around the Great Lakes. And like I say, until you get the phosphorus out, it's not going to happen. You got to get rid of the phosphorus. And the EPA recognizes this. Nutrient pollution is one of America's most widespread, costly, and challenging environmental problems there is right now. And it's the phosphorus. The nitrogen, as I said, you can aerate, or the wave action will allow that to evaporate off, but the phosphorus bioaccumulates. Then you probably have all heard of the issues in Toledo. Every one of you in your part of the world, I guarantee you the paper's full of these issues. They're finding algae in some lakes. I won't identify the lakes, but they're finding algae with neurotoxins, where dogs will, if they make the mistake of you know, drinking at lake's edge, it actually is killing animals. So it's pretty nasty problems that they're discovering. This is our biochars that use to remove phosphorus and stuff. We literally put the biochar just in construction socks and hang the construction socks in the lake. And then what happens, the wave action, the water just flows through. We bind up all the nutrients, and as simple as that, the algae blooms disappear. Then we can remove the socks, and I can resell those socks to recover all the costs. So in a perfect world, we do sell to this market, but if we get the socks back, we get a second bite at the apple. And for certain government entities, if you need to clean lakes very cost effectively, we can work it out to where the resale of the char credits back against, you know, the project. So you could literally, in theory, clean up your lake for free. These are examples. I mean, you see how bad this is, and then you see afterwards. This is just literally You know, there's less than $100 worth of biochar cleaned up this pond here. Now what happened here is they left it in. They'll just leave it in, you know. I'd rather remove it and come back and treat it again in 5 years. But they decided to leave it in here, so it'll just stay clear. This is a lake in New York. I mean, you got ponds. This was a 185-acre lake. You see how it cleared it up very quickly. You know, there's probably less than $1,000 worth of biochar cleared up this lake. So, you know, you can do large lakes. And as I'm saying, we're now speaking to California about lakes the size of 9 miles long, 8 miles wide. There's other photos of how it works. Here's one unique way we also use it as well. In fact, we were just awarded a patent on this application in the last few weeks. What we do here is we built a filter with the biochar and another media that what we do is we run through the filters. This is acid water coming out of mine, you know, it's up in the mountains, but you got acid water coming out of chemical plants as well that's polluted. So what we did, we had a media in the filter that adjusted the pH up higher. And then once you get about 4.5 pH, then the biochar will suck out all the heavy metals, bind up all the heavy metals. This was a project that we did for Trout Unlimited up in the mountains. And then this was really highly toxic water. It run through the filter. Then basically it could be discharged into the creek as clean water. And we've just received, like I said, a patent on this. So this will be, you know, this is something we're going to roll out nationally to chemical facilities and things of that nature as well. And the beautiful thing about it, the final product, once again, is non-hazardous. We are actually allowed to compost it on site in Colorado and add it back to the soil. We do bind up the hazardous to where it doesn't go back into the environment. In fact, we just started supplying DuPont biochar for them to remediate rivers, and we spent 3.5 years. Or you know, the biochar was tested for over 3.5 years. They use it to bind up mercury in situ, PCBs, and dioxins from when they dump. Turn of the last century, they're dumping some pretty nasty stuff in some of the rivers in New England. You know, and then what happens, you work the biochar into the riverbed or in the riverbanks. It binds up the nasty stuff. They knew that worked, but we spent 3.5 years. They spent 3.5 years doing animal tests, make sure it wouldn't go up the food chain. So you had to feed it to the worms, and then the worms were fed to the fish were fed to the birds, and you had to make sure that it wouldn't go up the food chain. And what happened was the toxins remained bound inside the char and passed through the digestive system of animals untouched. So the Cation Exchange property allow like plant roots and stuff to tickle out the molecules they want, but the molecules they don't want will stay embedded in the char. So unique little property. What we have done, we spent the last 5 years perfecting our technology and manufacturing. And two other things that weren't listed on the chart that this group may find interesting. One university just finished a bunch of testing where we absorb pharmaceuticals out of water. So what they were doing that far beyond just water treatment plants is, you know, they spread the biochar on the ground at a feedlot, and that way the cow, when they urinate, instead of the pharmaceuticals in the urine going down to the water table, we bound up all the pharmaceuticals, the antibiotics, into the char. We also are used oil and gas industry. We've sold quite a bit in the Houston area to clean up some vapor issues and water issues as well. In the oil and gas, we can absorb over 5 times our weight in spilt oil from salt water. It was tested in salt water. They did that test after the BP explosion. I think everybody tested everything after BP, but we tested, in fact, it was a university in Connecticut that took our char and tested it in saltwater spills, and we bound up over 5 times our weight in oil. So there's a lot of other things we do than was on that chart. All right, and then our emissions, this is where we spend a lot of our money, was on our emission control system. Because if you can imagine, you're paralyzing a lot of wood, there's a lot of nasty stuff that comes off of it. And we had to develop an emission system that cleans it up to where it's a lot cleaner than ambient air in most places. Proven production, consistent high quality biochar. We chase the industrial markets, so we have to have consistent high quality. We can't be inconsistent because while you'll Google, like I say, and find a lot of use in ag, once you sell to a farmer, if your product lasts the half-life is 17,000 years in the soil, you don't get a resale. So what we have to do is we have to go after the markets where they use it and dispose of it. And that's why we need the consistent high quality char. Because there's a lot of dead trees out there, and if you're going to use the dead trees, and if you're going to take the carbon out of the air, you can't just do it at a small scale. It has to be a large scale to make an impact. We developed our own advanced control system. We did our own software and hardware. We've got a ton of patents filed, and we're starting to get them awarded now, as I said. And we're beginning large-scale deployment. Now, what I'm going to show you here is our kiln. It looks very, very, how would I say it? Simple. In fact, one guy told me today it looked antiquated. That's an opinion. It's simple and elegant is what I would say, because there's a lot of computer control in this thing. The kiln is a multi-thousand-year-old technology, but we modernized it, mechanized it, and computerized it. And then there's no moving parts, so we move the air around and the temperatures around instead of the parts. That's one reason our competitors are having an issue with this fast pyrolysis systems, because they're trying to move product through heats that materials aren't made to move in. And then what we did, we perfected the kiln. And now what happens is this is perfected for the technology, is perfected for the recipe, is perfected for the quality. Why would we change the size of it and go to a bigger plant? We number up. We just add more kilns. Our emissions are so clean that, like if you're allowed to put out 40 tons of certain pollutants a year underneath certain air quality districts, we can have hundreds of these operating year-round and stay underneath those requirements. We go underneath synthetic minor permits. We don't even want public hearings. So we made an extremely clean technology that allows a permit that, as long as we're on an industrial zone or we're out in the woods or something where the zoning of the land allows this activity, the permits don't even require a public hearing because we go underneath minors. This is what they look like. These kilns are actually operating. You can't see there's any emission. If the picture was a little bit high quality, you'd see some heat distortion coming off. But each kiln has its own independent computer running it. But as I said, these kilns are actually operating. If the photo went from a different angle, you'd see rows of these at our facility in Colorado. And we're currently, as I said, expanding nationwide with other facilities. You can't touch the product, otherwise you lose your cost efficiency. So we basically developed this gripper that goes on a wheel loader, and we simply pick them up when they're done and dump them, and then run it through a processing line, bagging line, and ship to the customer. Then these are all dead trees. In fact, these over here came off a forest fire. We'll take dead trees, we'll take burnt trees, we'll take industrial wood waste, we'll take old pallets, whatever, because you want to keep everything out of the landfill as well, because it generates methane in the landfill. So we use the old wood, we shred it. We can use everything from the stump to the limbs to the needles. We take the slash, we'll take whatever they give us, and we turn it into our product, because molecularly it all becomes the same product. And this is a load of our product in the kiln. Load of the shredded wood, excuse me. In a perfect world, what you would do is you would take this into the woods. It's on tracks. You load up the dead trees in the woods, shred it into a live floor trailer, and then bring the trailer to us. But right now, we're currently bringing in log trucks of dead trees. We pay just like they were saw logs. So we give a market, and we pay, and we create a market that doesn't exist currently. In fact, the governor's office in California just basically had us apply for a grant that we turned in last week to get a site started just south of Yosemite because we can create a market for the dead trees in California where no market currently exists, and they're trying to figure out a way to get rid of their dead trees before the logging industry collapses around them. This is our finished product. It comes out looking like the logs that went in. What this product is here, one of our industrial markets is, we can basically, we add our biochar to scrap plastics, and we more than double the strength of what virgin resin would be. In fact, we just completed a board 2 weeks ago where we took scrap carpet fibers, and we'll be locating a facility in Georgia to work with this company. These companies are doing cradle to cradle on carpet, and they discovered the technologies they were using for recycling didn't work. So now they've got mountains of carpet they sure don't want to bring to the landfill because they sold it to the corporations as cradle to cradle. And so we can basically melt that into nylon, well, nylon and other garbage plastics, but we're the only bio additive that can withstand those kind of temperatures. So we actually just made a board out of the scrap carpets and our biochar, and the testing has indicated it's multiple times stronger than current Trex type boards. So we're hoping to be able to help the carpet industry and divert that stuff from landfills. So if we can divert the wood from the landfills and take the dead trees out of the forests, and if we can convert the scrap plastics, we also use, I know there's markets for class 1 and 2. There's 7 classes of plastic. Currently, we use the garbage, the 3s through the 7s. That literally, while most of your cities are paying to get them sorted, they still go into the landfill because there's no market for some of these plastics. We take all that garbage plastic because we are able to strengthen it. We can make it commercially usable. Now, the issue is you get one choice. You get a black board or you get a black board. You don't want to try to color this stuff, but for stuff that goes behind sheetrock and stuff, who cares if it's black or if it's brown or whatever color. But we can get rid of the scrap plastics out of the landfill as well, which that should help your ocean, because it seems like everything you read, I think the last thing I read yesterday, they're thinking like 1/6 of all plastics end up in the ocean now for water quality. It's incredible. Here's a satellite photo to give you an idea of what happened in Colorado. You see here all the green, all the forest when the beetle started, and now it's just wiped out. The other trees, just mostly, all the lodgepole is gone in Colorado. You still have a little bit of the ponderosa, although the ponderosa pine supposedly was immune to the beetle, but now the beetle ran out of stuff to eat on the lodgepole, so now they moved into the ponderosa. So it's amazing. And then they're also moving into the, not the birch, some other pine family up there that's way up high. They're moving places they never were supposed to go, and they're killing quite a bit of material. So anyway, that is the end, or basically the question becomes, is this the end of the beginning? And I'm open to questions. Probably may not have explained certain things properly, but I'd love to make sure everybody leaves here with a good understanding what we're up to, and the possibility of taking these dead trees and breaking the carbon cycle and taking the carbon out of the air, making sort of lemonade out of lemons. Thank you.
Well, thank you, James. Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions? Do feel free to put them in the chat window, or go ahead and if you would like a microphone, let us know.
Yeah, and I will make one comment, because most of you guys will have used activated carbon. We're a fraction of the cost of activated carbon. So in areas where we can be used, I compete heads up with activated carbon in markets like removing mercury from smokestacks and stuff at a small fraction of the cost. Water treatment, we do it at a fraction of the cost. So anyway, that's just an aside.
Okay, we return to the image of the view from space. Just to make a point that, and James, I'm going to mute your line just for a second here, and then I will hear that. We're going to put in there, as you see, there's the contact information for James Gaspard and for us. There are 2 other events in our Earthy Matters Earth Month series every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. The next one will be featuring the Biomicrobics Company and our approach and theirs to small-scale wastewater treatment for communities that are not geographically or financially or even, by choice, we're looking for a large sewer system, but are looking for something more scalable. The end of the month, the last Tuesday on April 25th, we're going to be looking back at turning the topic back to the environmental health professionals of what would life be like if we did not have local public health departments and local environmental health staff. So looking at that image there of the fires burning in Colorado in 2012, this is not an isolated event. You will note and remember last year's devastating fires in Tennessee and Gatlinburg, the ones in northern Canada in the oil sands region from a couple of years ago, and the ones in Australia this year. And although fire is a natural part of forest management, the fires on this scale are devastating, not just in terms of lives lost or communities or destroyed or the economic impact, but the resultant air pollution and the emission of carbon particulates. And you heard that the process that James described is just as interested in keeping those particulates confined. There's not much point in remediating greenhouse gas emissions and the resulting change in climate if you are just putting those products back into the atmosphere. And just this past week, there was a whole week of presentations by EPA ORD on the human cost, the health cost of small particulate and the off-gassing as far as human health issues. And these things travel. Obviously once it's in the atmosphere, it travels. So although the downed trees in some situations are going to contribute to a healthy forest management, when we look back to some of the slides that James showed, those the scale of those are going to be a significant problem for natural water system management, for soil management, and obviously for the integrity of the wastewater systems. The severe impact on water and wastewater infrastructure from large forest fires is significant. And as James mentioned, that fires on that scale will basically sanitize the soil system for many, many years to come. And the question then becomes, as we are stewards of the environment, then we really do need to be looking at ways to manage what we've created. I'm going to pull over some web links for you, and they will cover this up. Remember that you can, once we release the recording link, all of these parts are going to be interactive in the recording. Remember that you can go back and make any of these images full screen by using the crossmark image. I'll leave that on there. And I'd like to leave this back to our participants. I'm going to mute mine and unmute James and see if there are any comments or questions. Any comments or questions before we close?
I will make one other comment that just came up in the last week. Well, there actually was a little small town in Colorado that had a selenium problem. Their water system was shut down. They couldn't find a cost-effective way of getting their system back online until they found us. And so now they're able to remove the selenium. You know, people have different issues different ways, but there are, you know, we turn out to be a cost-effective solution in this avenue. And that's just a point I was going to make. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any questions. Would like to thank you all for attending. We do apologize for that momentary glitch at the beginning of it, but the recording is good and we didn't miss any of the content. So thank you so much for attending, everybody. We hope to see you again at our next week's Tuesday at 2 event. And James, thank you again.
I appreciate the opportunity, and you guys have a good day. Thank you.